Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Seeking Voices, discovering the new science of health and nutrition. I had the pleasure of interviewing Chef Babette today. She's so fabulous. You won't think of, you'll fall in love with her just listening to her. She's so lovely. If you don't know Babette, she's a globally recognized plant-based chef, fitness enthusiast, and motivational speaker. She's from Inglewood, California. She pioneered the first plant-based restaurant called Stuff I Eat in the early 2000s, where she still receives visitors from all around the world. She once was a hairstylist. She actually has a very interesting and colored past, how she describes how it shapes her. She's a self-taught chemist in the kitchen, perfecting healthy plant-based meals that are culturally sensitive. Her combination of a thoughtful food prep with intense fitness regimen has made her a sought-after expert in her field. She doesn't let her age define her, and she's so focused on quality of life rather than quantity of life. Join us in listening to her. You're going to be pretty amazed. Hey there, it's great to see everybody for another episode of Seeking Voices. I have the great Chef Babette here today, and I'm really excited to have you here, Babette, because as we were talking offline, what I think is so special about you is not that you are focused on nutrition and lifestyle, which is awesome, or not that you look like a rock star, which you do, but mostly that I'm just admire your charisma, your energy, and your passion and connection with people, and with your focus on nutrition. I think it's more about sort of how you connect with people that really is what I admire. So thank you so much for being here.
And thank you for having me.
Okay, so this is, by the way, to the audience, this is take two. We just tried this one. Like hearing this, if you had heard the first one, you would have heard me like blowing my brains out, being like, oh my God. So here we are again. So what we started with, which Babette was lovely telling us about, is really, how did you start? Like, tell us about your mom and dad. Tell us about your cool name, Babette, and how you know how to say your name, which I think is really such a great, sweet story. So tell us about that.
Okay. First of all, I just really want to introduce you to my mom. My mom made her transition a few years ago, but she was truly an incredible human. Had a pretty remarkable human journey, and she had 3 children. I was her middle child. And mom loved French names, so she decided she was going to give my sister and myself a French name. But because she had a 3rd grade education, she couldn't really pronounce them right. She couldn't really even spell my sister's name right. But she named me Babette, but she pronounced it Babette. And so I grew up with the name Babette. And every time I had to change schools, I was being teased because I had such a weird name. And finally, when I went into a French class, the French teacher said, "You've already got a French name, Babette." And I was like, "Is that how you say my name?" Because all my life. Anyway, but mom was pretty incredible. She was a sharecropper, had a 3rd grade education, came out here to California by herself.
Wow.
And when she she already had my brother, but when she got married and had my sister and myself, she was bound and determined. She wound up losing her husband, bound and determined that she was not going to have us on welfare. So consequently, she worked 2 and 3 jobs. She did cooking and housekeeping for folks. And we wound up having to have caretakers a lot of times. And, sometimes when you leave your kids with folks, it's no guarantee that they're going to be great people with your children. And there were a couple of people that were kind of strange. She did, however, wind up getting remarried. And but before that, at age 5, I can remember being molested by a caretaker. Caretaker's son comes into the house, comes upstairs, and finds me in my bedroom. And I know I'm 5 because my sister is 5 years younger than myself, and she was in the crib. Bingo. So even being 5 years old, I know I can remember that. her crying in the crib. And so that was the first time that I was violated as a child. And then as time went on, my mom wound up getting married to somebody else. And he too was weird with me. It was always me. And I think one time my mom saw him do something inappropriate with me. And she said to him, because I would never tell, I was that kid that I was never going to tell what happened to me, no matter what. I was going to keep it all to myself. And she saw him being inappropriate with me, and she checked him on it because it stopped all of a sudden. I didn't know why it stopped, but it was because she had seen him do something with me that he shouldn't have. And yeah, so I had to go through that. And then living with caretakers, I had a godparent. She was just so mean. And so there again, here I am having to put up with somebody who acts like they don't like me. And so, you know, that's rough on a little kid, you know, that's really hard on a kid because we all want to feel loved. And then I'm not with my mommy. I have to live with this mean lady for 5 days. And then the stepfather comes and picks me up and fondles me in the car all the way home. So I'm just like going through it as a little kid. And then, but my mother, you know, she had to work. But then, you know, people make such a big deal out of people on welfare. Sometimes people need the help. Sometimes my mother would not put us on welfare. So that meant she couldn't be with us. And would my life have been better had she put us on welfare and been able to stay with us? You understand? So we kind of have to think things through, and people think things through when you're having babies too. But yeah, so life started off pretty strangely. But you know what, nowadays, and as I become an adult, I understand that it's just a human experience. We all have a journey. We all have our own journey. And we've all got grievances.
Like that. Yeah. How do you feel? I mean, first of all, that's incredible compassion and sort of acceptance of sort of what you went through. But I mean, that must have shaped you and kind of messed with you a bit, you know?
You know, sweetheart, I was just really a sweet child. I was really always had a warm heart. And my mother, she was the kind of person that just reached out to everybody. So the whole race thing, we didn't do that in our home. Her husband was Italian, so everybody came into our home. So I was very fond of people, however, extremely shy. And when you've been violated like that, you become pretty much insecure. I thought I had eczema, asthma. I had so much eczema everywhere. My face was always broken out. My eyes were swollen. My lips were swollen. So I felt like I was ugly. I can remember having impetigo, I think that's how they pronounce it, in my hair. She had to cut all my hair off on the top because it's oozing mucus. And I had terrible earaches as a child. And my mother fed us everything. We were hooked on refined sugar. My mother put sugar in all the food she ever cooked, I guess, except for beef. Maybe she didn't sprinkle sugar on cow butt, but she put it in everything else. And so I was so addicted to sugar. Her KoolAid poured out like syrup. It was so much sugar in it.
Well, that generation did a lot of KoolAid, didn't they? You know, it just seemed
yes,
like
a lot of KoolAid was the big thing. KoolAid was the big thing back then.
Yeah. Well,
but you know,
yeah.
She tried really, really hard because she was so loving. And so she would work 5 days a week, taking care of other folks. And then she'd come home on the weekend. She'd cook dinners and sell them from her home on the weekend. So this woman was constantly busy. So I was, it was a rough journey for me as a child. And then finally, when she was able to stay home. It got better, obviously, because I had my mom. But I had already gone through all the torture, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh,
that's kind of how I came in
that's some
here.
heavy, that's some heavy stuff. So
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
kind of you to share with us. How did you, like when you were in your 20s and 30s, what were you doing? Because I've read and seen your journey that really you shifted things when you were in your 40s. Do you
Oh, I did.
share how your 20s and 30s were like, or how you sort of when you sort of left mom and left the nest, what was that like?
When I left mom, I was 21. I got pregnant with my daughter. And when I left prior to at age 16, I was raped.
Oh,
It
wow.
was by it was a neighborhood person who was on their way to prison
Oh my
for
God.
murdering somebody. And they were on their way to prison. It was like the next day I turned myself in. And this person said to me, if you don't let me have sex with you, I'm going to take it. And he proceeded to do that. I wound up getting pregnant. And I can remember having a summer job, and my first paycheck was 80 some odd dollars. Well, I told my mother I didn't get a check. And I called some woman in the neighborhood who came over and gave me an enema. An enema. No, an enema? No, it was a douche
Yeah, a
with
bad.
pine sol and ivory liquid.
Yeah.
She offered me no kind of meds, no nothing. She gave me that. I gave her that $80 and she left me. I was like 16.
Oh,
And I bled buckets and I never told my mother anything. So this whole thing about abortions too, I'm very, very sensitive about that because I was raped by a murderer and I could not keep this child. And so at 16, I figured out whether you have abortions illegal or not, people are going to do what they have to do. Now, that's my personal opinion when
yeah,
it comes to women and abortions. It's just the way it is.
yeah.
But I wound up having my daughter at age 21. I get married to my neighborhood sweetheart, and who turned out to be, got into heroin. You can only imagine what hell that was. Yeah, that was rough. I didn't go to college. Got myself a job at Pacific Mutual Life Insurance Company, and I can remember looking at a magazine, looking at these beautiful homes. It was an architect magazine, and this sister and I that were looking at the magazine, I said, well, I'll never have one of those houses. And she said, you think you would never have a house like that? And I said, I work at Pacific Mutual Life. I saw no further than where I was. You know what I mean? I said, I will never have a house like that. And she looked at me and she goes, wow, it's too bad you think that. And I didn't understand why she was saying that. She was working in the same building as me. And I was like, you ain't gonna have a house like that either. But now I understand why she looked at me that way.
Well, how did you change from that? I mean, it's hard, right? So you've gone through more than a person should have to go through. And then
it's spirituality. That's what got me, that's what changed my mind about so much stuff. But prior to understanding who I was and my connection with the whole, prior to that, I got involved with crack cocaine. I smoked crack. I um I I can remember crawling around on the floor for the longest time looking for rocks. Um, I can remember going out to a laundry room and lacing weed with crack and staying out in the laundry room smoking this. I'm thinking, people must have thought that girl is always down in the laundry room smoking. It was so nuts. But girl, when I got off of that crack, when I was at my mom's house in my vacant bedroom where I grew up, and I had been in there smoking all day. And then I was going through a piggy bank because I was out of substance. And I got this voice. So that's what you do now. You go through piggy banks. And I was like, whoa. And I understood, this is not me. This has never been me. My sister was into all kind of drugs. She was 5 years younger than me. She's the one that introduced me to the crack. She ultimately died from substance. So I wound up getting off crack that day and never going back.
Wow, because
And
of the voice.
I never went back. I never went back. I went and got myself a job with another airline, another carrier. But this time I wasn't a flight attendant. I was in reservations. And I hooked up with a really wonderful human that took myself and my daughter in and just completely redirected my life. Now, he was the person that took me to a service at this place that we called the City of Angels. And the speaker he used to be a singer. I don't know if you remember, you're so young, O.C. Smith. God didn't make little green apples. But anyway, he was a science of mind minister. And I never got it when I would go into a Baptist church or anything like that, and they would be screaming at me and people would be shouting and going nuts. It never worked for me. But this guy spoke to me. He spoke to me about who and what I was and my connection with all of this. And I understood, wow, I like listening to this person. I like what he's saying to me. And that's where I stayed. I kind of stayed in that place and just got stronger and stronger. I wound up divorcing this person and hooked up with my current husband. And my current husband is the one that actually introduced me to the vegan lifestyle. He was not vegan, but he had knowledge. And so that's kind of how I got where I am today. That was the journey, pretty much, you know. That was the journey.
I mean, that is amazing. And thank you for being so kind and sharing. I know that those are hard, heavy parts, you know, and not that I do think that even though they're hard parts to tell,
they're not though for me. They're not. They're really not. They're not hard anymore because that was then and this is now. And it was a part of a human experience that I embrace. Because now if someone comes to me, even a child needed a place to live because her stepfather was doing something weird with her. Her mom didn't believe her. I did. So you understand, I grew to the point where the intelligence illuminated me. And now I'm able to share the light. That is my purpose on this planet as a human. So when I become, you know, when consciously I get it, I need to share it. And so I can tell these stories all day long because that's not where I am anymore. And I give thanks for the journey. I give thanks for all the weirdos back there because they serve as spiritual guides for me now. Man, when I run into somebody like you, thank you very much. Got it. No, thank you. It's just amazing not being a victim when it comes to the journey.
I like that. I do think that, yes, that you have such a holistic view of your life. And I think that that's really impressive, because I think that when I think about sort of the tragedies in my life, and I look back, and I also, even though nobody wants to have gone through them, it is what shaped you, right? And it shaped and made you the person that you are. And it's hard to go through it, but certainly has made you into this sort of powerhouse. I mean, so how did you do that? Like, so you got into the plant-based lifestyle, you started getting into fitness because your current husband was maybe interested, or you guys were all kind of vegan curious, or how did that
Well,
happen? How did
when
how
I
did
first
you go from trying to then becoming, the superstar vegan?
when I first met him, that was the thing. This guy takes me on a date. That I've never met anybody like this. So he takes me on a date, takes me up to Griffith Park, and he runs the whole thing backwards. And I'm thinking to myself, sir, I don't even walk during the day. What is going on? And it was like 1,650 feet straight up. And he's running backwards. Then he takes me home and he feeds me this wonderful meal. I keep calling the tofu chicken. And and this was my issue when I ate. I always miscombine my food, lack of knowledge. That's why knowledge is power. Oh my gosh, it's just so important to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I used to always have acid reflux. I couldn't use the bathroom for days and days and days. And doctors back then would tell you 2 or 3 days, eliminating 2 or 3 days a week is good enough. No, it's not. If you eat every day, you need to use it every day. And just, oh my God, learning how not to be bloated all the time. And he gave me those books, Fit for Life, volumes 1 and 2 by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond, and the Mucusless Diet Healing System by Professor Arnold Ehret. Those books, I tell everybody, there's not one interview that I've ever done that I do not give credit to those books. Thank you to those authors, because baby, my whole life changed after that first meal with that little man and those books, reading those books. And I wasn't a big reader, but he gave me the book, so I kind of show out. I had to read them. But once I got into the books, I understood. I'm like, is that why I feel like that after I do that? And I just started learning so much about me and how to care for myself. And I
It's
don't know.
beautiful.
And when you bring up the oneness, then you begin to understand, because at first it was because I was bloated and couldn't poop. But then eventually, as I realized how the intelligence created all of it, and I am merely an expression of it. When I started understanding who and what I was in my oneness, really getting it, that is when animals became important to me. But before then, it was all about me. It was about the asthma, the eczema, the zits on my face and my back. It was about all of that. And now it's about all of it, because I am one with all of it.
That's
Period.
beautiful.
Isn't it just so wonderful to understand? It's wonderful for me because I really have a really good life right now. That doesn't mean that I don't shed a tear every now and then and things don't disappoint me in that. But really and truly, I give so much thanks to this journey.
I think it's interesting. A couple things you said. It's almost like when you feel lousy and you feel bad, you're not going to be able to sort of focus on connection and sort of oneness. And as you started healing, it was almost like you were able to sort of then see beyond yourself. And, I see that in a lot of people. As a physician, I see in patients really like the focus on self, right? Like, this isn't working, this isn't working, and it's really hard for people to then step away and say, well, what about this or that? And so I think that was the key thing that you said, that it's okay in the short term to focus on yourself and really to focus on your own self-love and self-care and heal yourself. And then you're able to then appreciate your connection to other things and other beings and the world. And sometimes you can't have, and because I find so many times people are trying to fix everything at once. And it's possible to fix everything at once.
It
So
really
just,
is.
right, be patient with yourself and be
Oh,
patient with the process, right?
that is so perfectly said. Yes, I just told somebody that earlier this week, a woman trying to transition, she wants to be vegan, but she has family at home, and she goes, I'm struggling. I said, stop. This is not a struggle. It's not a struggle.
Yeah,
One step at a time.
one step at a time.
Baby's gonna crawl before he walks.
Yeah.
Don't try to pull all of your family into this with you. This is your journey. This is you making the decision to do something with you. Has absolutely nothing to do with them. They're not where you are consciously. You need to take it slow and do you. But learn what you need to do. Don't just be out there thinking, well, I'm about to be vegan. And so what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Knowledge is power. And so that is what I share now. I share, know why you're doing what you're doing. It's not a fad. It is a lifestyle, period, over and out. That we've got millions of humans on this planet. Everybody's not going to do the same thing. And you don't need to, no, you just need to take care of you. And what I also learned, it is impossible to love outside of you if you don't know how to embrace and love you.
Yes, right there. That's probably the most important thing we're
So
going to
important.
hear all night, right? Is that you cannot think of others or think about loving anything else if you don't.
And sometimes we just and being able to reel it in, like when I said, oh yeah, I shed a tear every now and then, but guess what? Those moments they're limited because man, I know how to reel it in right now, and I know how to grab my moment back because I realize that the only time that's truly guaranteed to me, I mean, people will say, live today like it's your last day. Live this moment like it's your last moment. Because really and truly, you only have the now that is guaranteed to you. 5 minutes ago does not exist. 5 minutes from now does not exist. The only time that is real is right this second. So rather than being upset over most of the time something that's pretty petty and insignificant, especially when we're going back and forth with each other, my husband and I have done that. And then you ask me tomorrow why we were doing that. I can't even tell you why. You know, it's generally ego driven.
Yes.
That like a couple of kids. Well, I'm gonna have the last word. Well, no, I'm gonna have the last word. That is it's a hot mess.
You know, there's a great show on television. I don't watch a lot of television actually, and it took me years to get to this point where I watched this show called Ted Lasso. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I will tell you, there's a line in there that I think about all the time where it says, be a goldfish, because the memory of a goldfish is about 5 seconds.
I love it.
Yes. And so I love that too, because it's kind of what you're saying, which is, you know, we can't focus on the past, you know, don't focus on, just live right now. A goldfish remembers things for 5 minutes or 5 seconds. And then it goes on. Like if you stay in that moment, there's no worry about.
You're always current. You're always current.
Because all the insecurities and the doubts and all of the things that we feel from the past, like, did I do that right? Should I have done that right? Could I have said something different? Well,
or I'm not going to have enough money to pay my rent next month.
Yes. You know, that doesn't mean we don't plan or we don't work hard or
exactly.
We do because we need to do it in that moment, but we don't fixate or focus so much on what we did before. And I find what helps me with that, because we all struggle with that, is journaling. I don't know if you ever.
That helps.
Yeah, I find that journaling really helps me because it reminds me of the things that I'm happy about and I'm thankful for. And I think that's not something we do enough, like remembering the things that are so great in our life. What do you think about that?
I think you are spot on. I really do. I love that actually. My daughter asked me one time, she goes, you're always saying stay in the moment. She goes, but what if in the moment you were being tortured? And I said, well, sweetheart, that's not a reality for me. I may never be tortured. So it's just like me trying to think about what may happen tomorrow. I know what I would like to do tomorrow, but just exactly what's going to happen every second of tomorrow, I'm not there yet. That's not real time for me. So I'm going to stay in this moment right here, and I'm not being tortured. And she was like, okay, you made your point. But yeah, I love what you said. It makes such a huge difference. It really does.
It really does. And that's what I think I admire so much about you is that you have this incredible energy. So, tell us about what you do in like, what's a day in the life of Chef Babette? Like, what does that look like? Like, how do you keep yourself energized and what is your practice? Like, do you do a meditation practice? What is it?
Always meditate. And the only reason I wound up with my restaurant and being in food is because I thought I was going to be a singer and was in Japan with a couple of other people that I was singing with, and they were constantly doing music and rehearsing, and I was out shopping, working out, and meditating. So by the time I left Japan, a month and a half, I was like, I'm in food now. That's where I'm headed. And that's exactly where I went. But I have to be still and quiet. Right now, I live in an apartment by myself. My husband has an apartment at the restaurant. He has a studio. He's into music. And so he's 75, I'm 73. We know how to stay married and take our breaks from each other. It's our lifestyle. We dig it. So I get a chance now to spend a lot of precious time with self. And I am so fond of myself. I really, really love me. And I'm a big advocate on us not just saying you are a lover of life, but really being a lover of life and really giving thanks for the experience that you've been, the human experience. How incredible is that? And so that's kind of my role, where I hang out. And I don't even know, I got lost there.
Oh no, you're doing great. It's awesome to hear and just hear your passion. So you wake up, just tell us like
Okay, so
you wake up at
like it's 3:50 right now. So normally I'm doing a detox right now. So my last cup of tea will probably be around about 5 o'clock. But girl, I wake up every single day between 1:30 and 2. I always know what time it is when I a.m. And it's usually the bathroom run. I gotta go use the bathroom. And but I can go to bed. I can literally go to bed and go to sleep at 5 or 6 when the sun goes down. And I promise you, sleep through the night till about 1:30 or 2. And when I wake up and go to the bathroom, I begin my day. And so that allows me. Listen, girl, look what I get in before noon. I can go to the gym. I get to the gym at 5. And first I put on all the paint on my face. Then I go to the gym, get there at 5. I do 45 minutes spin and then 45 minutes with a trainer, get myself cleaned up, head over to the restaurant. And I'm there. I do all the prepping of the food. Since COVID, it got kind of strange during COVID. So we let a lot of people go. But right now, I'm still doing all the food prep. So I'm there depending on what time I get there. Now on a day that I'm not at the gym, I can get in there at 3 or 4 in the morning and be out of there by 10 or 11. But and then the rest of the day belongs to moi. And I have a come on, I'm busy. You talk to Chris, right? My manager, and we're just busy doing some of everything. And it's just a good life for a 73-year-old. And I have enough energy to get it done. It's incredible.
But if you go to bed at 6 o'clock at night and you wake up at 2, you're getting 8 hours of sleep.
8 hours of sleep.
Yeah. So like, it doesn't really matter when you go to bed, as long as you are getting that sort of 8 hours.
I get my rest.
Yeah. And so I think that that's, fine. I think that it's interesting because I've never seen somebody wake up that early, but if it does work for you and you're getting that 8 hours, like, who cares?
And
so
it's automatic. I don't,
yeah.
I'll wake up and then I'll reach for my phone and look, and it says 1:39 or 1:45. And I'm like, man,
But
wow, bullseye.
but if you're effective in the way you do it, so like, who cares? I think don't fix what's not broke, right? I mean,
True.
yeah.
I'm happy with it because I get a lot done in a day. If I mean, come on, waking up that early, I get a lot in. Where people just say, well, I don't have time because I had to go to work, and then I got off work, and then I had to come and fix dinner, and then the whole day was gone. I start my day early.
Yeah. So do you stop, when do you stop eating? Like, when you're not doing a detox?
Oh, I'm done eating like 6 or so. I don't, and I'm detoxing now, so it'll be a tea. I'm not eating a lot, eating more like one big salad a day, or drinking a big green juice a day. But when on a normal day, I shut down eating like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. I might have a cup of tea if I feel like it. But I'm still dealing with the desire to have something sweet. I'm still dealing with that, believe it or not. After all these years, I'm 73 years old, and my husband is all the time, can you just please cut back on the agave and the sweet potato pie? And I'm like, but all the customers love the sweet potato pie. He goes, I don't really care. They're too sweet. So we're like, I've got this sugar thing, man. And people shouldn't give their kids sugar. It's really rough when you're addicted on that stuff.
It's so hard. I agree. I have also a sweet tooth, and I went through a sugar detox, I don't know, a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago.
How'd you do?
My husband said I was mean. He said I was like, he told me I was a total bitch, man. He was like, you were awful. And so, and I remember saying, like, I wasn't really that bad. I was fine. He was like, no, we're not. And so, it's interesting. Since that time, I eat sugar again, but I'm definitely I'm recalibrated. So
You're more restrained.
Yeah. But I still also like a little bit of sugar. So my big weakness is chocolate. I love to eat chocolate. So I'll do a little chocolate with some almond butter almost
You're
every.
so cute. He said you were mean. It's like you were here, eat some sugar.
I know it, but it is that it's such an addiction. And I agree with you.
It is.
We should not feed our children sugar. And
no,
everybody,
especially refined sugar, high fructose corn syrup, those two in particular. Now, I'm using agave, but agave sugar. I mean, but it doesn't break me out like refined sugar did. Now, refined sugar just attacked my skin, period. But agave doesn't do me like that. But y'all, it's still sugar.
For everybody here, that agave and honey and maple syrup, they're all different sugars. And so monk sugar, date sugar, and so when you kind of make it into a sugar, it's still like this refined piece of the plant. And so, and always remembering that even sugar, sort of traditional sugar, is cane, it's sugar cane, right? And so
right.
So, if we can go back to more eating that whole food, so, right, like throwing the dates in, but we're all imperfect and we do the best we can. And exactly. I feel like if I eat a little bit of dark chocolate and almond butter, and that makes
you're good.
I'm good. Exactly.
You're
like,
good.
I'm good. And as long as we keep sort of active and are keeping everything else really clean.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we should sweat the small stuff, and
yeah.
I think that I do think there's so many people in this plant-based world that focus so much on meticulous, like mushrooms should be cooked or mushrooms should not be cooked, or this or that.
No.
And, just right. What do you think about all that?
I can't get into all that's a little bit too finite for me. I don't live like that. And I'm gonna tell you what I really do for my sugar addiction is I just order from Amazon pound bags of ginger chews. Just at least I'm getting that ginger.
I hear you. We all have our thing, Babette. We all have our thing. I hear you. That's so funny.
Hey, at least I'm not crawling around on the floor looking for cocaine rocks. It's just a ginger chew.
No, I think that that's a very honest answer, and and a very honest comment, because at the end of the day,
nobody's running 100.
Yeah, like, and I sometimes, because I see a lot of patients that say, well, I heard on this podcast or that podcast that I should do this or that, and I can't eat any, or I can't have coffee, or I can't have this, or I can't, and you can pick and choose whichever one that you have heard, but there's always something, and I really try to get people to step away from the detail of like, I can't have this or I can't have this. Just focus on the big picture, which is eat a whole lot of plants all day long, every single day. And don't worry so much about, whether I didn't cook my mushrooms or I should have cooked them or didn't cook them. Like, just eat the mushroom, right? And right, if there's a cost issue and you can't get organic, don't get organic. And if you can't eat fresh, then get frozen. Like, just eat something, but just eat plants, right? I mean, isn't that the message that we want to sort of relay to people?
You just really said it. You really did, because that's what I was trying to tell this woman. She's like, she's tripping, and I'm like, first of all, just trip with you. Leave your family alone. Let them do what they're gonna do, and calm it down. Don't get so wound up. You're not gonna be able to do everything this week, so it takes time. I started this journey in 1990. It's 2024, and I'm still learning. You know what I mean? I'm still making changes to my lifestyle as I learn, but it's a journey. Don't beat up on yourself.
Yes,
it's okay.
We are definitely our worst enemies, aren't we?
Aren't we?
Yes.
Oh my.
So what I love the sugar comments. My husband and I are gonna laugh about
your
that.
husband is funny. Telling that really cracked me up. You weren't. You were a bitch.
He's spicy. You would like him. So what do you think about supplements? Do you take any?
Well, I mean, right now I'm taking some Orlo for the what's that thing we get from fish? Omega-3. Yeah, I'm taking some Orlo right now. I love my sea moss, so I'm hooked up with a sister, and we kind of sell sea moss together. I love the sea moss, and and herbs, but yeah, I'm not real big on taking a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. I get I get so much nutrients from the way that I nourish myself that I don't, I just signed up with Anthem Insurance Company. I don't even have a primary care physician, haven't had one in years. Because Ron and I just were never sick.
Yeah. Yeah, good. I mean, that's a good problem to have. It's amazing.
Yeah, but sometimes I think we both do the wrong thing by not periodically going in to have blood checked and that sort of thing. We just got so, I feel okay, so I'm not, but sometimes things are going on that you have no clue.
I always tell people, even if you feel great, go in once a year.
At least once a year. We haven't been doing that. He and we have not been doing that. I have had nobody, unless when I tore my rotator cuff. Okay, obviously I had to go see a doctor. Okay, I busted my knee 2 days before my birthday. Let me tell you what I did. I have to tell you guys, for women out there my age, stay in your lane. Don't get so overzealous. You get in the gym and get stupid. Let me tell you what I did. I went to my spin. I went to spin. I spent 45 minutes, and then something said, you should go get on that treadmill. You know how you used to like to run that 8-minute mile on that treadmill. This is 2 days before my 73rd birthday. So I go get on the treadmill. Now, I've not been on the treadmill in so long, like some years. I get on the treadmill. I turn it up to 7. Oh, that's still so good. Then I see my trainer and I go in the training room and I'm just showing out that day. I'm not even, he's looking at me like, am I training you or what? Girl, I get to work and bend down to pick up a spider web, and my right knee, it went, it sounded like crack, snapple, pop.
Ay.
Do you know I didn't go to the doctor. I did not go to a doctor. And everybody kept saying, what if it's a meniscus tear? What if you don't even know what happened? But I've been crippled since then. It's finally getting better, like where I can walk down the stairs with both instead of walking with, but I didn't even go to a doctor for that. And I probably should have, because they probably could have made a little tiny little incision and hooked everything up in there, and I probably would have been walking out of the doctor's office.
Well, the truth is that knees are super tricky, and whenever you irritate your knee, it really, the best medicine for a knee
is rest.
Rest.
Yeah, and so I've been good, but you know what? From the time I cracked it, I'm the only chef. It's stuff I eat. I would be on this knee, and you know what it didn't like? It didn't like to be wrapped. It did not. I had to leave it open, but I did use ginger oil and cryo freeze on it, and then I found a hemp patch that I could put on it, and I think all the hemp patch did was numbed it up. So I wasn't too, so I would have to keep it off. But the point is, stay in your lane. You know what I mean? That's the knowledge. Don't get so overzealous that you do things to injure yourself. I did that to me. I had no business on the treadmill turning it up to 7. I'm about to be 73 years old and sprinting on the treadmill when I haven't been on it in years. That was stepping out of my lane. So ladies, be careful.
Well, you brought up aging, which I think is an important topic, and one that I'm quite, it's near and dear to my heart, because of course I'm aging, but also I'm taking care, I have parents, and I take care of,
wow.
I take care of a lot of seniors. And one of the things that I'm very interested in is protein as we age, because as we age, it's, as our stomachs are smaller. And if you fill your stomach with calories and there's no protein, you've kind of lost, you only get, a small amount of time, a small amount of sleep. So you got to make, I always tell people, you got to make every bite count. How do you sort of focus on protein? Do you make it a focus, or do you just kind of eat what you want, or do you kind of intentionally add certain protein items to your meals?
I don't focus real heavily on, just the protein intake. It's never hindered me. I build muscle still. I'm strong. So when it comes to the protein, because I juice a lot of green stuff and a lot of kale, I'm getting protein. We eat a lot of lentils.
Okay.
Yeah, lentils, that's big at the restaurant. So I'm getting enough of what I think I need, but girl, I've not been to a doctor.
That part, truthfully, you are probably, like if you feel like you have energy and you can do all these things that you want to do, and you don't feel like you're sort of losing your muscle mass, then it's not an issue. I think that you are eating a load of lentils, and that's sort of how you're getting your protein intake. And I think that that's great.
Lentils and what is a lot of the sea moss. I'm eating sea moss every day.
I have to check out your sea moss. I'll have to check out your sea moss.
Earth and Sea Wellness, that's us.
Okay. Well, you brought one other thing, and I know I've kept you a while, so I'm not going to keep you any longer. But
this was fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It is so fun. I'm curious what you consider yourself African American, correct?
Oh yes, I'm 78% West African.
Okay. What do you think about culturally Do you find that people that are African American struggle with this change of diet, or how do you appeal to an African American audience, or do you?
I don't appeal to one audience or the other. I appeal to the human species.
I love that.
Because I consider us all one. I'm just really happy that the intelligence made more than red roses. I'm so happy. Um, so when I speak to everyone, you know what I
I
mean?
don't mean in terms of speaking, but do you feel like how do I'm Indian, for instance, and so if I talk to my mom about hummus and quinoa, she's going to be like, I'm not eating those foods. And
Well,
so
my mother was like that. My mother was just she ate him, but she would also say, I don't want you to think I'm never gonna eat chicken again. So
yeah,
please don't get it twisted.
well, that's what I'm curious about. Like I like to find, and I think it's very important, and I make a big effort to make culturally sensitive plant-based choices. And so when you appeal to the African American community,
Oh, there you go.
what kind of culturally sensitive kind of choices do you make? Because I'm curious
Okay,
that I can use those too to recommend. Because like I said, with my mom who's Indian, doesn't want to eat quinoa and hummus. She wants beans and lentils and that kind of
right.
stuff. And if I tell her to eat quinoa, she's gonna flip me the bird, and so, but if you, so I, sort of making sure that we make those culturally sensitive meals, and what would you say to that in terms of
I,
how you appeal?
well, I opened a restaurant in Inglewood, California back in 2008. And it was pretty much a food desert. And it was predominantly Black and brown community.
All right. Wow.
So I brought the food that my Black husband and I ate. That's what we decided to put in the restaurant because it is what we consider a transitional menu. But listen, what we've got on there:
Yeah.
tacos, burritos, quesadillas, a soul food platter with either jackfruit or tofu.
Nice.
I make my own nut burgers out of walnuts. So we've got a little bit, if you want raw, I make a carrot on tuna. You can, you know what I mean? I can put it between two things of lettuce and you got yourself a raw sandwich.
Let's
So
go.
we appeal to everybody, I think.
That's
And
great.
that was, but especially I'm talking about a Black brown community, tacos, burritos, and then a soul food platter. You understand? Burgers. Everybody has to have a burger. So at that point, we felt like we reached at least that community, if that is what you speak of.
Yeah,
That's what
I
we
was just
did.
sort of more curious because sometimes I like to sort of think of the foods that a person can relate to. And I find that change is easier when I talk to patients about foods that they're used to eating and then just kind of change out a few of the items. And so that's why I was kind of curious what you were serving and what you had done to sort of create that sort of culturally sensitive meal. So that helps me. Well, I thought
Right.
we'd round out the conversation with a few thoughts. Like I thought maybe you could say, what would be like 2 or 3 Chef Babette recommendations, or maybe things that you would have said to your younger self, or you would say to an audience that is primarily women, or people that are interested and motivated in change. What would you say to us about 2 or 3 things that you would say to motivate us to change or to remember? I mean, I have a sense of what you're going to say, but what are 2 or 3 things that you would do as advice?
Well,
Or
one thing in particular, it's okay to say you love the gift of life, but it's even better when you prove it.
Hmm.
Saying it, okay, but
And
prove
how do
it.
you prove it? How do you prove
You
it?
prove it by caring for self. You prove it by learning how to really care for self. You don't always have to take another person's word for anything. Find it out yourself. And I believe that is really, really, really powerful as far as I'm concerned. Also, my big thing is staying in the moment. Don't live outside of now. It's just easier to stay present, stay current.
Be a goldfish.
And to love over everything Let love be the power over everything. That is how I got through all of the crap on my journey. I did not hold a grudge. I did not stay angry or bitter. I loved, and I will continue to love. And I know that that makes me a winner, period.
I love that. That's such a beautiful way to end. Babette, you're amazing. You are truly incredible.
Oh,
And
thank you, sweetheart. So are
no,
you.
no, but seriously, because I do think that I really appreciate seeing somebody with so much passion and energy and who is showing us that it's not about aging and the number of years. It's about sort of what you do with the time and also living in that moment and then also living with quality, right? So
Mhm.
like making these moments count and making sure that so many people are focused on like, I want to live to 100. I want to live to 100. Well, I don't really want to live to 100. I just want to live well.
Quality.
Yeah. Like I want to feel strong and
Yes.
I want to feel vital. And so,
Quality.
yes.
Yes.
And so what I love most about talking to you is that you show us through your life and through your path that you live a vital life.
I do.
And I think that is, and at the beginning, for some people, that's going to be hard. Like they're in this rut and they're not going to have that self-love. But it starts with sort of saying to yourself that I love myself, or that I deserve more, or that I am good, and that I'm strong, and that I am loved, or I deserve love, and I am loved. And to remember the things that you are thankful for, that you have these great things, like you are this beautifully passionate woman or a beautifully passionate person, and to remember those things about ourselves, which is what makes us self-love and feel more vital in the world.
And it's okay.
And it's
It's
okay.
okay.
And not to expect so much from ourselves, right? Like,
Oh,
give ourselves a break, man.
give yourself a break and have that chocolate.
Such a pleasure, Chef Babette. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, baby.
Hi, this is Monica. I hope you enjoyed the podcast as much as I did recording it. If you're looking for additional opportunities to take control of your health, check out one of my online workshops where you can take a deep dive into concrete steps to foster change. Visit askmonica.me/workshops. That's askmonica.me/workshops to learn more. If you're looking for more specific advice for your own personal medical condition, I offer telehealth visits where we discuss your personal concerns and create an individualized plan. Find all the details at askmonica.me/visit. That's askmonica.me/visit. Thank you for joining, and be well.